Booyah!
Good news, everybody. Welcome back to the Fringe. I have some wonderful, wonderful news for everybody going into the weekend so that everyone can relax, everyone can take a breather, calm down. There's no need to panic, ladies and gentlemen. Everything is going according to plan. Ladies and gentlemen, the government has investigated itself and found that no wrongdoing was done. Yes, we're going to talk about foreign meddling in our elections, where Justin Trudeau essentially is guilty of foreign interference with China, with Beijing. This is of no surprise to anybody. We all knew this was going to be the result of the findings when they opted to look into the effect of Han Dong and the Chinese meddling of interference. I want to get into those, but first, before we get into that, ladies and gentlemen, I want to take some time to remind you and announce at the same time, fully on a video, we put this up in our community yesterday, that some F Wacko shirts, as well as the Obama poster Wacko shirts and merchandise, are now available in our store shop. I will have a link to the shop in the description as well. You can hit the shop button or the store button in our regular video of YouTube pages. There's a store right below the video title, but you can head over there. Now, the reason I mentioned these shirts and why they're so important, I usually don't plug these things, but for about the next 24 hours, you can actually get these designs on sale. So you can save yourself a little bit of money, but also what's more important is anytime I use Justin Trudeau's likeness, people get offended, they report it to this site, and things end up getting pulled down. So if you want to get your hands on this merch, I would order sooner than later, before the prices go back up and before, again, somebody gets butthurt and removes this from existence. Again, link will be down in the description, but you can always head up over the shop button on the YouTube channel. Now, on to what the government has done. CTV, now I wanted to showcase CTV because this is a government-paid shill prostitute site where we're going to talk about foreign meddling did not affect overall federal election results, says an inquiry report. So they're going to admit federal interference did happen in the election, but it didn't affect who took office. It had no effect, ladies and gentlemen, so we should just ignore it, right? We should just let it be swept under the rug. It's okay, right? There's interference in our system, but hey, don't sweat it. No problem. Foreign interference by China did not affect the overall results of the 2019-2021 general elections won by Trudeau's Liberals, a federal commission's inquiry has found. In the interim report Friday, Commissioner Mary-Jose Hogue said that it is possible that outcomes in a small number of ridings were affected by meddling. This cannot be said with certainty. Yes, it can. They literally had it on paper before. Hogue, who heard exclusive testimony and reviewed secret documents, found that interference by Beijing or others did not undermine the integrity of Canada's electoral system during two national votes. Again, we've seen the evidence that came out against former Liberal MP Han Dong. We've heard to no extent the level of corruption that goes into Beijing's electoral interference. Yet they claim our system remains sound, Hogue said following release of the report. Voters were able to cast their ballots. Their votes were duly registered and counted, and there is nothing to suggest that there was any interference whatsoever in this regard. Nor did meddling efforts have any impact on which party formed government in the two recent elections. So let's recap what was said here. Let's think about this for a second. Voters were able to cast their ballots and the votes were duly registered and counted, and there is nothing to suggest that there was any interference whatsoever. But then they say, nor did meddling efforts have any impact on which party formed government. So we don't have any evidence of meddling, but meddling didn't affect anything. So they're saying a double negative here. No evidence, but there is evidence, and it didn't have an effect. Hogue stated in a report that interference from abroad undermined public confidence in Canadian democracy. This is perhaps the greatest harm Canada has suffered as a result of foreign interference. Again, acknowledging foreign interference. The inquiry recently wrapped up 10 days of public hearings into suggestions of interference by China, India, Russia, and others in the last two general elections. I learned foreign interference is an ever-present reality, not just in Canada, but around the world. I also learned that the government takes measures to try and respond to it, whether or not an election is underway, Hogue wrote. Well, I'm glad that all those taxpayer dollars could be spent for her to learn a valuable lesson. Aren't you guys happy with that? Isn't that a good waste of taxpayer dollars? In this way, foreign interference is like a crime. It's always present. It's like methods that evolve. While government has always ways to address it, it is likely impossible to eradicate. That said, must be discouraged and its effects must be mitigated. Again, let's take a look at the text here from their quotes. Voters were able to cast their ballots. Their votes were duly registered and counted, and there is nothing to suggest there was any interference whatsoever in regards. Then she says down here, foreign interference is like a crime. It is always present. What are we doing? What are we doing? Its methods evolve. While the government has ways to address it, it is likely impossible to eradicate. Yet they said up top, no interference happened, ladies and gentlemen, but we're acknowledging that it's present and impossible to eradicate. I need a drink. I don't know. What is happening to our country? Under a federal protocol ushered in by Liberals in 2019, there would be a public announcement and the panel of bureaucrats determined that an incident or accumulation of incidents threatened Canada's ability to have a free and fair election. Again, we saw Pierre Poilievre when he made his statement about this about a month and a half ago, showing a very thick document, almost like one of the old White Pages phone books. If you weren't around for those things, they existed at one point. But to show all the evidence of interference, Hogue said she cannot exclude the possibility that the outcome in some individual ridings could have been affected by foreign interference. Again, there was no suggestion that there was any interference whatsoever in this regard. In my view, the number of ridings is issued to a relatively small and ultimate effects of foreign interference remain uncertain. If they're happening in ridings, it doesn't matter if it's a vote that's directly going to the Prime Minister. There could be MPs, as we all found with Han Dong, who are sitting on the Liberals' bench brought in solely by Chinese interference. I don't understand what we're debating here. She went on to scrutinize the 2019 Liberal nomination race in Toronto riding of Don Valley North, where Han Dong won the candidacy. The Canadian Security Intelligence Service flagged a potential plot involving a busload of Chinese international students with falsified documents. But Hogue said there wasn't enough evidence to inform any conclusions about what actually happened. Again, White Pages phone book full of documentation. She also pointed to the 2021 results in British Columbia's Stevenson-Richmond East riding, finding a reasonable possibility a potential Chinese interference campaign against Conservative candidate Kenny Chiu cost him the seat. So again, well, there's no interference. There's none, but we're finding all this evidence. This impact was likely been slight to date, but may become more severe in the future. I hate to break it to you, but again, if you go back and watch a video I had earlier this week, I talk about very specifically how municipality like Calgary is trying to change election laws so that interference is easier to commit at this point. Again, Calgary putting through a approval vote to allow non-Canadian citizens to vote in municipal elections, stating that, well, they pay property taxes, they pay our fees to be here, they deserve a right to vote. No, they don't. No, niet, nay, 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 no touchy. You don't get the right to vote. That's not how this works. I don't know how else to spell it out for you. I can't go to America and vote in American elections unless I am an American citizen. Same thing in Canada. That's how it works. I don't care what skin color you are. I don't care where you came from. I don't give a darn how unincluded you feel. You're not allowed to vote unless you're Canadian. Why that's a big deal? Provincial leaders like MP Rick McIver have once again said, we're not going to allow that to go through. The province has to have the final say on it. However, when you look at WEF organized puppets like Naheed Nenshi, who are running for the provincial seat, many people say, he's not going to beat Danielle Smith in the next election. I beg to differ. If you look at the support he has in Calgary, and again, Go back to that video where I show the ridings, marginal votes going on where he was, Danielle Smith was elected with less than 1,000 votes in each riding in some places, can result in the favoritism of the boomer generation and the younger generation voting in favor of somebody like Naheed Nenshi, where they prop him up, where they prop up his SJW propaganda, his white supremacy, his rhetoric. Calgarians, there are a very large handful of them that still love and support that purple dinosaur clown. And if he gets in, you're going to see more interference like this, like you're hearing about in British Columbia in this article, more like you're hearing in the federal elections, because it's going to become a staple for a province to pass something like this, and then for other provinces to say, well, Alberta did it, we can do it too. And before you know it, it makes its way all the way up to federal cabinet. So people say, well, Derek, you're blackpilling everybody. Stop spreading this kind of fear. This is reality. And if you look at the last 8 years of Justin Trudeau, if you look at the pandemic, if you look at lockdowns, if you look at everything the government has done to us in the last 8 years, is this hogwash baloney conspiracy theory really that far out of the realm of estimation to say that it could happen? I don't think so. I think it's very plausible. I think it's very likely to happen if we continue down this very slippery slope. Let me know what you guys think down below in the comments about the government finding themselves not guilty of being guilty. And while you're here, if you enjoyed this video, I hope the video has earned your subscription. Make sure you join me tonight here on the channel for Friday Night Fringe at 6 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Central, where we're going to go over all the stuff that happened this week, all the stuff coming out next week, and a little bit of back and forth with the community. I always look forward to seeing you guys there. It's my favorite part of the day, and I look forward to hearing from each and every one of you. I hope you guys enjoyed this video and have a great rest of your day. I'll catch you on the next one.